Attention! The following video contains graphic stupidity. Therefore, if you were easily offended, or you are under the age of 2.5, then this video and this channel are not for you. Otherwise, sit back, relax, and enjoy the video.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the video. My name is Dr. Demonic, and today I bring you a top 10 tips video for the Division 2. If you remember a few videos ago where I said I was going to do two separate videos, I just decided, you know what, fuck it, I'm doing one giant video because I'm lazy and don't want to do the extra work. So instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to split this video into two sections where I'm going to give 5 tips for each section. Pre-endgame and endgame. Once the raid is out, I will probably work on a separate tips video for that because it is obviously clear I have nothing better to do in my spare time. If you don't believe me, just watch my Apex Legends video and try again telling me that I have nothing better to do. Without any further delay, let's jump into it. My number one tip for pre-endgame is to do the main missions the same way you do your girlfriend. Or boyfriend if you swing that way. I mean, I don't discriminate. Which is as quickly as possible. The ultimate goal of a looter shooter is to get to endgame as quickly as possible. And similar to the first 2 Star Wars prequels, the story is mediocre at best, so you can honestly just speed through the story and you won't miss much. If you are more of a story-driven player, and I don't judge, then feel free to take your time. But for the average hardcore player, that's what you gotta do. The second tip I have revolves around getting XP and getting to level 30 as quickly and efficiently as possible. Now before I say more, I would like to preface that getting to level 30 is a grind either way. I'm a hardcore player, and it took me about 22 hours of playing to reach level 30. The way I went about getting XP is I did it in chunks. So from levels 1 through 10, I did mostly main missions, and I got a fair amount of XP. From 11 to 20, I continued to do main missions, but primarily I went to each safe house I could access at the time, used the laptop to get all the shade tech cache locations, and went from control point to control point, capturing each one, and on my way to each one, I tried to grab 1 or 2 of the shade tech caches. After I'd done all of that for each region of the map, I talked to the project handler, as there is a project associated with each zone of the map. And by turning in those projects, you will get a chunk of XP along with a bounty, which gives you more XP. Once I reached level 20 or so, I put more effort into main missions and started doing the weapon mod blueprint side missions. And let me make myself absolutely clear here. Do not do the side missions until at least 18 or 20. The reasoning is because the difficulty of the missions scale with your level, which allow for a higher XP gain, and once you get to the higher levels, it becomes a drag trying to level up. My third tip has to do with which skills you should pick at the beginning of the game. At the start of the game, you are prompted to choose 2 skills for your character. Without wasting everyone's time going over every single skill in the game and explaining what they do, I'm just going to go over 2 skills I recommend for everyone at the start of the game. The Reinforcer Chem Launcher and the Reviver Hive. For those of you few pink star-shaped folks who live under a rock in the middle of the ocean and never wear a shirt that didn't realize this was obvious over everything else, allow me to explain. The Reinforcer Chem Launcher is a skill that you can drop on yourself to self-heal your armor, and I believe it brings back around 1/3 of your armor bar without any healing mods or talents, and with them, it can bring your armor from 0 to 100 in just seconds. The reason I would choose this over another self-healing skill, for example the Repairer Drone, is because the cooldown for the Chem Launcher is significantly quicker than anything else, and it gets 3 shots, so you can heal yourself back to back to back. As for the Reviver Hive, well, I mean, it's in the fucking name. You go down, it drops if it's not on cooldown, and you get to pull a final destination without an imminent gruesome death later on. The fourth tip I have is to collect and save crafting materials. Once you hit endgame, crafting materials become vital for crafting, but more importantly, recalibration. If you can max out your crafting materials early on, you won't need to worry about farming them later down the line. The best way to get crafting materials is to do one of 2 things. The first method is to take over a control point, donate about 50 resources, and get the buff that allows you to obtain Superman's X-ray vision ability, minus the sub-ability to stare at boobs through clothing, of course. But you will be able to see visible loot caches up to about 20 meters away for 10 minutes. Hashtag Superman's a pervert. After you obtain the buff, just run around the open world for 10 minutes and open up as many loot caches as possible. The second method is similar to the first, but it is more effective for getting the blue crafting materials, such as titanium. You're going to want to travel to the solar farm control point as shown on the map and reclaim it. Donate your resources for the buff, and then just run around the control point for 10 minutes, opening all the loot caches. And the last tip for the pre-endgame portion of the video is how you should use your shade tech. As you are playing the game, you are obtaining a currency called Shade Tech that you can spend to unlock new skills or perks from the Quartermaster, who got tired of working for the Call of Duty franchise because of Activision's corrupt monetization practices, and now he resides in your base of operations. If you follow the tip before about skills, then you shouldn't spend any of your Shade Tech on skills until endgame, otherwise buy the 2 skills I mentioned before. Instead, focus on getting all the perks, the most important being the XP perk tree. This tree basically gives you extra XP for different combat activities and will help you a little bit as you're leveling your character. After that, I would recommend going for the weapon attachment perks, but honestly, after XP gains, you can do them in just about any order you want. The first tip once you reach endgame is to progress through the world tiers as fast as possible. In order to do this, you need to complete certain invaded missions and the stronghold tied to those missions. The only downside to this, however, is those strongholds are hard locked behind your gear score, so do the invaded missions, get your gear score to the required amount, and do the stronghold to progress from world tier 1 to 2, then 2 to 3, 3 to 4, and 4 to 5. The second tip I have is to max out all of your specializations. Once you hit World Tier 1, you get access to specializations, which are the equivalent to subclasses in Destiny. The 3 specializations are Survivalist, also known as Daryl Dixon, Sharpshooter, also known as Chris Kyle, and Demolitionist, also known as KABOOM! The order you decide to upgrade does not matter, however, you should max out all specializations because going into the raid, it will be nice to have a variety of choices. In order to do this, however, you will need specialization points, and the easiest way to get those are to do the invaded missions and strongholds. If you don't have any invaded missions available anymore, then do bounties because those give you 3 for every one you complete. Third up, we have building. Having a synergetic build is one of the most essential things in The Division 2, similar to how drinking piss is essential to Bear Grylls' ratings.
Right at snake level. These guys' strike is super fast, and the only thing I can do is to drink my own pee.
Now, I'm not going to go in depth on builds in this video because I already did that in my build video. Hashtag shameless self-promotion. Instead, I'm going to leave you with some talent combinations I found the most useful for my personal build, which I call the Terminator.
Come with me if you want to live.
For my first combo, the 2 main talents are Safeguard on the backpack and Patience on the knee pads. Safeguard gives you a 150% buff to healing after getting a kill for 20 seconds. And then Patience heals 5% of your armor for every second you're in cover after being in cover for 3 seconds. The second combination I have is a Vector 45 ACP or a Vector 9mm with the Crit Chance Suppressor and Crit Chance Laser, along with the Strain talent, which allows for a 10% crit damage buff for every 5% armor depleted. If you add a chest piece with Berserk for 10% overall damage for 10% armor depleted, then you are able to hit enemies harder than Mike Tyson on steroids. And the last combination I have is a combination of a high damage Model 700 sniper with the Ranger talent that increases damage by 2% for every 5 meters away the enemies are. Add stacked headshot damage with the Sharpshooter specialization and a 3-piece Araldi Holdings brand set, and you can deal up to 500,000 headshot damage. I'm well aware I just spit more numbers at you than a calculus teacher with a cold, so I'm going to reward you with a video of a polar bear doing whatever the fuck this is. The fourth tip I have for you is to upgrade your crafting bench and get all the blueprints. Remember that tip about crafting materials? Well, I hope you weren't like me in school and you actually paid attention to that, because in order to craft endgame level items, you need to upgrade your crafting bench to match your world tier. After that, you can focus on getting blueprints, and you may be asking, well, how do I get blueprints? The 4 ways to get blueprints are to do side missions, finish projects, buy from vendors, and do level 3 control points. The first 3 are pretty self-explanatory, but The fourth isn't as much. The control points have an alert level attached to them, scaling up to 4. In order to increase the alert level of a control point, you need to complete open world activities attached to them, such as the territory controls, propaganda broadcasts, etc. Regular activity completion will increase the alert level by 1, and elite activities increase it by 2. If you look at your map, there will be a plus sign and a number next to the activity, and that signifies how much the alert level will increase. You only need to do the control points on level 3. If you want to do it on level 4, be warned the enemy difficulty scales with the alert level, and unless you have a strong build, you're probably going to get screwed harder than a porn star on June 9th. Or, if you read calendars the wrong way, September 6th. And finally, the last tip I have for you guys is to do bounties and make sure you are stocked on target intel. As I mentioned previously, bounties are a good way to get specialization points, but also the best and I think only way to get specific loot. There are 4 daily bounties that reset every 24 hours. 2 normal, 1 hard, and 1 challenging. Each daily bounty resets with the promise of a particular gear piece or weapon. For example, one bounty might offer a holster, another might offer an SMG, and so on. Let's say, oh hey, I'm looking for a particular holster or SMG. Doing the bounties that guarantee that item have a higher chance to give you the gun or armor piece you're looking for because they're offering that specific piece. However, bounties require a air quote currency in order to activate them called target intel. The best way I have found to get target intel is by killing yellow health or named enemies, and I don't know the exact odds, but they drop frequently enough to where I'm usually maxed out by the end of my session. And that is where I'm going to wrap up my tips videos, since this script is 8 pages long and I really need to pee. So if you enjoyed the video and found it helpful, feel free to hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and leave a nice comment. And if you didn't, then hit the thumbs down and express in the comments your desire to stick a rusty kitchen knife up my ass. Anyways, with that said, stay in school, keep your pants dry, and hugs, not drugs.